there. Welcome back. Today I am going to be finishing up a stuffed animal. I didn't show the sewing of it. Unfortunately, I'm using a smaller sewing machine that to me doesn't get the curves correct as I like my Epic does. My Epic is still in the shop. So at this point, I got to use what I have. The only reason I'm making this bear is I made a bear for fun. Just it's a memory bear, and I made it out of one material. It has a green background, and I had a matching material that's pink. So my daughter thought, hey, since you did the green one, why don't you do the pink? So this is what the bear looks like. It's sewn and stuffed, but not the best because curving on this one machine it's an older machine. It's called a Designer One, and yeah, it's old, and it doesn't have quite the technology that my new one has. So my newer one, I can make curves better. The green bear looks better than this pink one. The part that I'm going to be doing is the hand sewing. But this is a memory bear. I made some other memory bears for a friend, and 3 of them so far. And she wants me to make 2 more, which I will put those up on video. But I'm going to do that when I get my Epic back. I don't want to be sewing it on this. I already told her, and she was okay with that. So the 3 that she has already made out of baby clothes, she's already given those as gifts. The 2 that I'm going to be doing for her are going to be for personal. I'm going to also be embroidering on the stomach, so I will show you those 2. So as I'm putting it together and how I do it. So, but at that point, I'm going to leave it with, I'm going to be kind of silently sewing this shut so you can see it, and then have a finished look at it. But I will do more of showing how it's sewn, cut out. I just wanted to see with this machine what it does. Not now I know why it's my backup older machine. I gifted it to my daughter. My daughter's let me borrow it, which she's being nice. The machine you see in the background is a Brother Dream Machine 2. It does sew. I've never sewn on it. I only use it for embroidery. That was the purpose for that machine. I don't want to be pulling it apart, putting it back, because you have to remove that arm. And removing the arm, putting it back where it's located, I don't want to be dealing with it. So I could sew on that. I'm sure it sews really good. But I do most of my 3-dimensional embroideries on that. Great item. I love it. So, but I've pretty much just made that one embroidery only. But out of desperation, if it was going to take forever to get my Epic back, I would definitely end up pulling it over here and using it as a sewing machine. But right at this point, I've gotten everything caught up for customers and friends and stuff. So I'm just at the point of, we have a craft show this coming weekend. That's why I'm making the duplicate bear, so people could see it and say, oh, I like that as a memory bear. You know, could you take baby clothes? Yes, I do that because I'm going to take some pictures. I'll include the pictures up in here of the bears I've done with baby clothes. So it gives you an idea. They're all 3 lined up against my Epic. You're going to see my Epic machine. So we'll throw those in so you'll see them. But right now, I'm just going to be hand sewing and listening to some audio, which we'll just put music in. So I hope everybody likes it. We will get more in detail of making more embroideries. But right now, I just got to finish this for the show, get it done. Also, I'm going to do some pulling my craft room apart and getting rid of things that I don't need to be holding on to. I'm not going to do. I'll probably end up making a donation box and donate them to one of the kids sewing. There's groups here in Oregon that they're teaching the kids how to sew. I think that's very important because they don't have it in school. So, but at that point, we are going to hand sew the back of this bear, both his legs, back, and arms. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I tried to get as close as I could to the stitches so you can see how it's done. So they're invisible. He's all closed up, or she, one of the two, she, he, whatever. And head kind of squished up. But super cute little bear. Oops, sorry, I hit the mic and everything. But all finished, ready for the show. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I know that was a lot of hand stitching, but it does take time. And so you could see there'll be some speed up in there probably but you also see in there how I can take the two ends of the thread and knot it with one finger. So I don't have to deal with two hands or anything like that. Just kind of wet it, and then roll it in it and then pull it. It makes a wonderful knot. I hide the knots under. So when I get to the end of the stitch, I go back a little. It's to keep it hidden and keep that knot hidden, so it's not sticking out there. That's why I do that. I've been doing that for years. I've been sewing since I was 7 years old, so I've learned different techniques. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, definitely like, subscribe, and I will be putting up a video each week, possibly two, but one to start here. So definitely stay tuned, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.